So this is my music review of Led Zeppelin, the first album by the band, and it was released in late 1968. But let's go back and have a little brief history with regard to that particular band emerging. In July 1968, the English band The Yardbirds disbanded after two members, Keith Ralph and Jim McCarthy, quit the group, and a third, Chris Dreyer, leaving to become a photographer. That left the fourth member, Jimmy Page, on his own, and there were some contractual obligations to the name that hadn't been met, and so Page decided to keep the band going. He tried to get some people in. He eventually got hold of John Paul Jones to join him on bass. Terry Reid as a singer, that didn't happen. And B.J. Wilson, Procol Harum's drummer, well, that didn't happen either. But then Reid, who declined the offer to sing for Page, suggested that he have a word with Robert Plant, and they met at Page's house in Berkshire, and they sort of gelled together. The chemistry was clearly there, and so Plant got on board, and then he asked his mate John Bonham to drum for the band, and so the Yardbirds, the new Yardbirds, emerged. Well, it wasn't long before Page decided to ditch that after doing a few gigs, and he basically then, in conversation with one Keith Moon, who mentioned something about a lead balloon, the name Led Zeppelin came, and Page decided, yeah, that sounds great. They went out on gigging around, and they already had got together some strong songs that appeared on the first album, amongst them Communication Breakdown, I Can't Quit You Baby, You Shook Me, Baby I'm Gonna Leave You, and How Many More Times. And so basically the band were up and running. So when they eventually got to the point where they got an opportunity to record with the help of Peter Grant, he and Page funded the recording of the debut album, and the debut album didn't take too long. It was apparently all the tracks really were completed in about 36 hours, and the cost of the producing and making the album a measly 1,700 quid, would you believe it? So basically they laid down the tracks for the first album. They were ready to go, and it was ready for release in March 1969, and it was released in America at the beginning of January. But that was the origins of the formation of the infamous Led Zeppelin band. With regard to the recording, it was really controlled solely by Page, who'd had a lot of experience in recording studios prior to this one, and he was very committed to making it a stereo production. Prior to this, most records had been recorded in mono and stereo, but he was having none of it, and he was able to add certain recording techniques which created this sound that was quite unique. His placement of microphones was significant in getting a sort of texture to the record. He would place them some distance from amplifiers, and this improved the balance and the ambient sound to the recordings, and also it was able to create a slight time lag from one end of the room to the other, and this had a tremendous impact on Plant's vocals, and also the reverse echo technique that Page used throughout his career. He was able to introduced that to the recording and achieved this by turning the tape over and recording the echo on a spare track. So a very, very important step in this recording, a very radical change in recording techniques, and it's all down to the wonderful talent of Jimmy Page. So, to track one then, Good Times, Bad Times. Talk about an opening gambit to a career that became iconic. This first track hits you smack in the face. Tremendous opening rhythm from Jones and Bonham leads into that great rock riff by Page, and of course Plant literally explodes into the microphone with ferocity. Midway, the first of many guitar solos from Jimmy, and this was significant about this track is the pulsating rhythm from Bonham. Punchy, rocky, and of course he's ably supported by John Paul Jones. It's only 2 minutes 35. The lyrics, well, summed up in the title really, the ups and downs of being a young man with the fairer sex, and describes how you lose your girl mainly due to your own stupidity, but also about others around that distract her. Any day, it's a great opener, and I really think it sets the whole mood of the album. Into track 2 then, Baby I'm Gonna Leave You. This was a rearrangement that Page put together after he heard the track performed by Joan Baez in concert, although she wasn't the author. The author name escapes me now. Anyway, Page, of course, performed his magic. The first time I heard this, I just had this sense of emotional enrapturement. This is when Robert Plant became the greatest rock singer of all time, in my opinion. His impassioned sexual roar, which is so evident here, and the song mixes up softer elements with heavier riffs. It's done with a combination of Plant's vocals and Page's exquisite use of Spanish acoustic guitar picking, and of course that amazing chord intro is memorable. And in contrast to that softer element, there's the bombastic drum style delivered by Bonham in that very sort of hard rock style. The clarity in the production is worth noting as well. It made the sound so crisp and appealing, and you can actually hear all four members contributing towards the song. The clarity is 5-star, again down to Page. And although there's elements of Page's blues influences, you can also see the originality in the sound engineering. And although Page was very much a magpie, stealing from blues giants, he was able to piece it all together, and originality is what steers through here. The song, well, it's about deciding to get rid of a love and then realising you make a big error and you try to recover it, and you got that sense of relief when finally the girls come back to you. But what a tremendous track. It sort of jettisoned me into my consciousness of the band's power, and I knew it would set up the rest of this album and their career. It's a really tremendous piece of work, very symphonic in patches as well, particularly near the outro. So to track 3 then, You Shook Me. This was a traditional 12-bar blues, originally written by Willie Dixon, but Page transformed it into virtually a completely different piece of music. Although the basic track is very blues. It's 6.5 minutes, and it's difficult to know where to start here, but it opens up with some very cute lead duetting with Plant on harmonica. He seems to have learnt a little from Little Walter or Howling Wolf in how he delivers the harmonica, and it's so adept at following Page's lead. He then slips into his vocal shriek, which many compared to a scream. Just close your eyes and hear a young white kid bellowing the blues. And then we moved to a tasteful keyboard solo, of course a very slow rhythm. The keyboard solo by Jones is pretty stunning, really, and very much indicative of the time. These styles of organs solos were atypical across the music scene. And then in steps Jimmy's slide guitar solo, and then a bit more harmonica from Robert as we move towards the final outro. Now the outro is absolutely sensational. There's a competition, as I saw it, between Jimmy's lead fretwork and Robert's vocal copying, note by note. The high notes are matched with a high-pitched squeal that's full of pain, almost orgasmic by Robert Plant. An awesome duo between the two, unheard of in its time. And these two guys definitely joined at the hip from day one. Absolutely extraordinary. And the lyrics, well, it tells the tale of the impact one person can have on another, how you relate to each other, and how it just hooks you in. Hook, line and sinker. Dixon's words lays it all out there in terms of the impact, the effect, and the length of time that one person can have on another. And it's a lovely lyric, but I have to say it sort of suggests that the man is really at the whim of the woman to an extent. I don't wish to sound a little bit misogynist there, but I did sense that. But that's You Shook Me. Incredible. So to the last track on the first side then, the iconic Dazed and Confused. It's segues in from You Shook Me. It's another 6-minute plus track. It's scary, epic-like, really, with some astonishing musicianship on this. The intro starts off with Jones's gentle bass, Bonham's tiptoe-style delicate drumming, and then the piercing, distorted guitar from Jimmy before Plant's opening lines. It stuns you into silence. It's impassioned and it resonates through your bones with the feedback throbbing through your veins. The cacophony of rock rhythm encapsulates the riff as the band increase speed before recycling the blues riff. Jimmy climbs all over the fretboard, somersaulting with a faint harmony in the background, if you can just catch it. Tremendous mixing on this track. And then you hear Plant's very sexually charged, female-like. And the song reloads before charging forth again. And the sort of breaks into 100-mile-an-hour rock drumming that draws all the band to the maximum output. It's just so mesmerising. And as we approach the outro, further statements from Robert's pain-drenching vocals that grab you, the listener, and you're in a sense dazed and confused through your listening. I recall a very late concert at Earl's Court in 1975, and this was virtually the last time that Dazed and Confused was played live and changed into a 25-minute epic. And here we saw Jimmy Page playing the guitar with a violin bow, and he certainly drew out all the feedback, distortion, soloing and sound effects. Yes, it was self-indulgent, but wow, was it mesmerising. That was Dazed and Confused. Definitely the strongest song in their set, aside from Stairway to Heaven. And it's really indicative on this first album of how it stamps its authority on the track list. It was originally heard by Page as a song written and recorded by Jake Holmes in 1967. He was a sort of folk country singer, and it caused a bit of a controversy down the track because Jake wanted some royalties. But I don't know all the ins and outs of that. But certainly the Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page arranged song, Dazed and Confused, bared very little resemblance to the original sang by Holmes. So that's the side one completed. So it's the second side of Led Zeppelin 1. Your Time Is Gonna Come starts us off with Jones' church-induced Hammond organ unaccompanied, starting things off. And then you're launched into a serenade of soft rock with power as Bonham and Page on acoustic guitar quenches your thirst, and then Plant hits you between the eyes. It's got a really gentle, soothing rhythm, and it's idyllic as the organ launches the choral harmonies. And then that touch of pedal steel, organ mix, and then the solo, Page's pedal steel guitar solo. The production is so clear, with Page positioning of the speakers, maximising the spatial feel. And then we glide into track 2, Black Mountain Side. The percussion is haunting, and Page nimble virtuosity on acoustic guitar creates that southern Louisiana atmosphere with mystic Indian tambours. It's really wonderful stuff, and of course it was inspired by a song by Bert Jansch. That's what I found out anyway. It's an awesome contrast with the first track, and then we're ready for track 3. We roar at a mega pace to the power of communication breakdown. This is Led Zeppelin at their most ferocious, heavy and strutting furiously. Plant and Jimmy's guitar solo is off the charts. Fast and faster Page plays. It could really be an advertisement for rock and roll. And then 2 close the blues. I Can't Quit You Baby, slow and full of guitar wizardry, and Plant fills in the gaps with impassioned squealing and yelling, the sweat and tears oozing out of the voice box. Written again by the blues legend Willie Dixon, Jimmy is at his most awesome and arguably never has sounded like this since. It's so raw and fresh. And then that segues into Howling Wolf's pacey blues effort, How Many More Times, where Jimmy uses a lot of echo and pedal work. It's a thumping rhythmic juggernaut, with Bonham showing us his credentials. The last 2 minutes are a showcase for Page's use of Hendrix-style feedback and other guitar tricks that at the time seemed out of this world. A wall of shimmering lead guitar. I hear a lot of Hendrix in this track, and it's an absolutely hypnotic piece of music. I never get sick of listening to it. A timeless gem. The crunching last couple of minutes. Call Me the Hunter, Robert sings, and Plant hunts us down to the finishing line. As a debut, this is up there at the top. It's as good as it gets. Right, to summarise this, well, it's almost impossible to summarise. This arrived and it took the whole world by storm. and it stood the test of time as well. It is still regarded as one of the greatest debut albums of all time. This combination of blues and rock, I'd say hard rock, not heavy rock, and the individuals just collided together and managed to put together an album that is by far, in my opinion, the best they ever done. And I'm very happy to report that I listened to it, and the production is so well done by Page that it sounds like it could have been produced yesterday. Absolutely magnificent piece of work. That's Led Zeppelin 1.